keeping God's command, keeping God's command. Midweek meditation, and get complete understanding, on keeping God's command, keeping God's command. And get complete understanding, on keeping God's command, keeping God's command. Midweek meditation.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. How is everybody doing? I pray everybody is doing well today. It's Wednesday. It's time for us to get back into the swing of things. We took a little break for a while. We were trying to do some big things, so we had some people fill in for us. Shout out to Brother Daniel. Shout out to Deacon Shema Ariah. Thank y'all for filling in for me on Midweek Meditations the past couple of weeks. It's been very appreciated, and in that time, we were able to accomplish a lot of great things. The church, known as True Spirit of Christ, is now ready for you so that you can get all of the content that you need throughout the week from True Spirit of Christ, no longer in that private group alone, but now public and open for everybody's enjoyment. All praises to the Most High God for that. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in and coming back and joining me this week. We had a great Feast of Dedication celebration. We had great Sabbath. We had great New Moon. We had great fellowship time with our brothers and sisters. You know, it was so much fun and partying going on and worshiping and serving the Lord going on that we're tired and we had to get a little rest. And, you know, that's what it's all about, putting in work for the Lord so you can make your calling and election sure. But that's what it's about right now. Here we are Wednesday. We've had to go back to work after, you know, a lot of us having some days off. And in doing so, you know, we're already worn out. Wednesday, we're worn out, ready to take another vacation. And Wednesday is here to give you that spiritual recharge to help you get to that Sabbath day. So again, all praises to the Most High God for that. So today's topic is, are you about your people? Are you really about your people? Some people say that they are, but the question is, are you really about your people? Are you really? And I have to ask that question because your actions show way more than your mouth, dictates. Through the vocal words that come out of your mouth, sometimes your actions show you a little different. And it doesn't matter how strongly you say it, with all conviction and all authority, if your actions don't line up. That's why God said in the Bible that, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy by your name? Oh, whoa, I never knew you. Because it wasn't about the words you spoke, but it was about the actions that you made. Did you help the people when they were in need? Things like that must be considered, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So what I ask of you, as you tuning in with us, is to hit that share button. Hit that share button. Hit that like button. Go ahead and make some comments and all of that good stuff. Just get this gospel spread across the four corners of the earth, because that's, again, what it's all about. It's all about getting the gospel spread. I see you. Those of you who are tuned in with me, I appreciate you for tuning in. And we're definitely going to get ourselves in the spirit on this day. Every day is the Lord's day in which we should be getting ourselves in the spirit. God made all these days. And the Sabbath day is that day of rest. But Wednesday is definitely a day to check your spirit and get it right. And let's go ahead and make ourselves better than we were the day before. So before I get started, I'm going to look through the comments real quick. I see people commenting. I see somebody speaking on things about what other organizations have said in their particular broadcast. And, one thing I want to say, and shout out to Deacon Shema Ariyah, one thing I want to say is we make sure that we don't strive with our people about foolish matters, no matter how foolish they are, no matter how hurtful they are. We choose not to get down in the mud and the grime of things, and we try to do things with class, with decency, with order, and to make sure that we, always, being a good example to our people. We're always being a good example and a good steward of the kingdom, a good representation of that, because a lot of times the way that we act, and that's why we got to talk about this topic, are you about your people? A lot of times the way we act, we're a very big turnoff to our own people when we should be trying to encourage and embrace and bring our people closer together. So all praises to the Most High for that. But here we are, without further ado, Midweek Meditations. Let's talk about, hopefully, you guys were paying attention during the Feast of Dedication. I was able to teach a lesson, all praises to the Most High God, about the Maccabees. It was entitled, If I Were a Maccabee. Now, who caught that lesson, If I Were a Maccabee? That was for the closing of the Feast of Dedication. I hope you caught that lesson. If you did not, go to the True Spirit of Christ page and catch it. It may even be posted on the Midweek Meditation page as well. Catch that video and get your spirit really rebuked, if you will, to see if you're in the right spirit or the wrong spirit. Because I asked the question, if I were a Maccabee, will we even have a Feast of Dedication? So then I said, well, let's make sure that each of us ask ourselves that question. If you were a Maccabee, if you were the people that were during that time frame, would the dedication of the temple actually have occurred? Will we have cleansed that thing? Will we have overcome the heathen and been able to put ourselves back in a position to worship the Father? Or will we have been just comfortable in that captivity? What would have happened? So check that out. But I wanted you to think about that and reference that if you've watched it, because when we were discussing that was during the time of the Feast of Dedication. And what you found out is that Mattathias and so on, the rest of the family, they were really about their people. Now, we're going to go to 1 Maccabees chapter 2 and read some of that stuff that we've already read just a week ago in that lesson. But read it and get a little bit of understanding on what it looked like when you're about your people. If you're serious, if you really are about your people, what does that look like? So, here we go. 1 Maccabee chapter 2 verse 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, "Woe is me! Wherefore I was born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers." So this is Mattathias. Verse 1 says, "In those days arose Mattathias the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorab, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. He had 5 sons: Johanan called Caddis, Simon called Thassi, Judas who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Avaron, and Jonathan, whose surname was Appius. And when he saw the blasphemies, when Mattathias saw the blasphemies that were committed in his hometown, in his holy city, the city of his people, Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me. So when he saw the blasphemies, he felt some type of way. He felt that woe within his spirit. And he says, wherefore was I born to see the misery of my people? He noticed that the blasphemies equated to misery of his people. He was thinking about his people. No matter how well he was living, no matter how good he was doing, when he saw what was going on with the other people, it caused him to feel this woe within his spirit and to have to understand why he had to see misery of his people and the holy city. So he had a pride toward his city. He loved the city of the of God, the holy city that was set upon a hill, that was made special, that was made separate, that was given to the forefathers. That's what he was concerned with. And he said, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, the fact that his city was now controlled by enemies, the fact that his sanctuary was controlled by strangers, that was a problem. So we have to recognize this. We have to recognize who our people are. And we have to recognize who the true enemy is. You know, we go to precepts and we find out that your neighbor is your brother, is a Hebrew man. However, we sure forget to act neighborly to a whole bunch of our brothers. We forget to act neighborly to a whole bunch of the Hebrew men and women out there. And instead of being brotherly and neighborly, we treat them like they're the enemy. We treat them like they're the strangers. But I wonder if Mattathias treated his brothers like strangers. It treated his brothers like enemies. Or did he reserve that stranger and that enemy mindset toward people who were of another nation, people who were not God's chosen people, toward people who really wanted to see the destruction of the entire nation? That's the question I have to ask myself. So as we read on in verse 8, it says, her temple has become as a man without glory. See, Mattathias understood that the temple, God's temple, the temple of the Israelites, where the Jews were supposed to do their sacrificing and have their holy moments, right? It was now without glory. It was without glory because it was defiled by heathen, by enemies. It says her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. The things that decked and ornamented that temple were now taken by the heathen. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? See, it was getting us to the understanding that all the other nations are against us. But yet, you know, it's sad when there's 18 nations and 17 and a good majority of the 18th is against us as well. See, it's sad when you got 17 nations against you and a good portion of your own. You got an uphill battle to fight. So it says, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bond slave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory. Look at this, our. It's plural and possessive at the same time. So it's saying not just my sanctuary, but our sanctuary. The collective sanctuary. The Israelite sanctuary. The Jews' sanctuary. You know, all of the sanctuary of our people. And even our beauty and our glory is laid waste. So everybody was feeling this thing. Everybody was a little disturbed by what had went on. But yet, a lot of times we forget about that hour. and we think about that me. We forget about that collectivism, and we think about that only about us, only about me and the small circle, right? It says, and the Gentiles have profaned it. See, now we do understand that sometimes when you refer to Gentiles, that could mean some of our people too, because our people will have that Gentile mindset. That could be because our people grew up not knowing the laws. However, we know that the Gentiles in this verse that we're reading is referring to the Greeks. Because in the Maccabees, the Greeks were the ones doing the damage to the temple. This was after the Persian and Mede captivity. Okay? It says, to what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? See, Mattathias felt that with the destruction of all of his people and the cities of his people, that right there was cause to not be able to live. See, he didn't say, oh, well, that's them and this me, I'm good. He said, hey, we are all suffering to such an extent that we're doing bad. Like we. What is this we? See, normally we only do we when it's good, but this guy was doing we when it was bad. And he says, then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. They were mourning for what happened to their people. They were mourning for what happened to the city that their people dwelled in. They were mourning for the fact that as a whole, the nations were beginning to win over them. See, that's a very important point. You know, that's something to really consider. That's something to really think about. And a lot of people don't want to think about it because they're so caught up in that mindset of I'm better than you. I'm holier than thou. You know, but that's the Willie Lynch mindset. The Willie Lynch started to put the us against ourselves. You know, you begin to do light skin versus dark skin. You know, indoor versus outdoor. And now you're doing, you know, whatever you can to separate yourself when you're both the same people. You both should have the same goal. You both should want the same salvation. You both should want the same heaven, kingdom, all of that good stuff. But instead, you make your brother a bigger enemy than yourself. So the question is, are you about your people? Because with what we see here in the Maccabees, people were able to come together and accomplish great things. And now, again, we know certain things. We know that the true coming together is not going to happen fully until Christ returns, right? And we understand there will be disagreements. And we understand that there will be people going in one direction and another direction, you know, because can two walk together lest they be agreed? All praise to the Most High God for putting that in the scriptures. However, you know, it's still a disturbing thing to see when you say you about your people, but you attack your people worse than you attack the enemy. Matter of fact, you don't attack the enemy. You don't. So where were we? We just mourned in verse 14. Now let's go to verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. So this is the king, not of Israel, not of Judah, but the heathen's king, the Gentile king. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias and also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said unto Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler, an honorable man, and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. See, Mattathias, in case you didn't know, he was a leader. He was a ruler. And if any of us would like to be leaders, if any of us think that we're in position of rulership, then we must look at Mattathias as a great example. Because he was one of the examples that showed us how to do it the right way. You know, there are a lot of people who put themselves in position to do it the wrong way. Some people got the Diotrephes spirit. Some people got, you know, the Rehoboam spirit. Some people got the Nabal spirit. Some people got various spirits that just ain't right, but they are in positions of leadership. So don't think that all leadership is good leadership. Don't think that all rulership is good rulership. But what you got to look at is the fruits, right? What you got to look at is the works, right? And don't think that just because you have a couple of good works that you can't ruin that with a couple of bad works. You know, the scriptures also say that a little leaven ruineth the whole lump, right? That the scriptures don't want you to make provision for sin. because once that sin come in, it can open up the gateway to more demons to come upon you and more sin. And then you add sin upon sin. I know the Israelites know these things. I know the people who are precept warriors are aware of these things, but you got to make application in the time of need. You can't know them only when it's time to open the book and raise somebody who can get the scripture the fastest. You got to know them in the time of need, right? So it says, thou art a ruler. If you want to be a ruler, you want to be an honorable and great man, you want to be strengthened, you need to take a look at your brother Mattathias. He was a great example. Verse 18, now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. So this king's officer is saying, come and fulfill the commandment of the king like all the heathen do. So you got to ask yourself, are you going to act like the heathen, or are you going to act like a righteous individual of God, right? See, the heathen, they're the ones that exercise lordship over the people. The heathen, they're the ones that will do their own people dirty to get what they want. The heathen are the ones that are not governed by principles and morals of the Most High God, but instead are governed by their own devilish principles. So, now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, as like all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also. So there was some men of Judah that acted just like heathen. There were men of Judah who made the same decision heathen made. There were men of Judah who did what the king asked them to do. And you know, one of the kings of this rulership that we're in under, let me say, right now, they want us to be an enemy with our own people. They don't want us to be all about our people. They want us to be about everybody else. Oh, we are all one nation, right? Oh, all lives matter, right? Oh, this and that. And so don't you dare say Black Lives Matter, which would be equivalent to Israelite Lives Matter if it was really a thing, right? Don't you dare say anything about uplifting your people to a certain level. If it ain't for everybody, it ain't for you, Negro. That's how it has been. So the king wanted you to do just like all the other heathen do. Don't do nothing special for yourself. Don't be separate. Don't be different. Don't be holy. Don't be set apart. It says, and such shall remain in Jerusalem, so that thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. See, sometimes people will do things to be on the king's friend list, on the king's good side. I will, how do I say it, trim my ways to seek your love, king. That's what some people do. Some people will trim their ways to be in the good graces of the person who's in rulership, who seems to have the power, who seems to be blessed right now because of all the things that are in their favor. But what you fail to realize is just because they're the king doesn't mean they're going to be in the kingdom. Doesn't mean that they're righteous. Doesn't mean that they're going to get salvation. So just because they're the king in that moment, you know, we understand who's the king in real life, you know, in the long term is Christ. And if we want to be in his good graces, we better please him instead of pleasing the wrong earthly, worldly king, right? The earthly, worldly ruler. So it says, so shall thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. See, some people, they let a gift destroy their heart. Some people, if you put a little money in their pocket, they'll do something strange. Some people will fold on you. Some people will do all type of sneaky, devilish, deceitful things for the fact that they know that they can come up. They'll rob, steal, and kill just so that they can come up. And the thing is, it's not always about money. You know, it's about fame. It's about popularity. It's about notoriety. It's about whatever lust that you may have. If you can fulfill that lust, you'll be willing to do something that's wrong. You'll be willing to go against your own people to achieve it. You look at all of these HBO dramas, right? Stars, Fox, all of the network TV. Every show that's dealing with black folk has what? Negroes killing each other, selling drugs to each other, robbing each other, taking each other's wives and whatnot, going into adultery. All we do is take from each other. And the thing that I want the people to understand is just because you put a Bible in your hand don't make you any different. See, the thing that makes you different is, are you actually acting different? Are your actions different? Is your mindset going to will you to be a very different and separate person, that when the nations see you, they look at you and say, what a wise nation. See, right now we're a joke to the world. Right now we're a joke to the world because they see that we'd rather fight each other than fight them. And they don't even have to fight us. That's the beauty of it for them. See, that's that Judith 5, right? That's that Psalms 83 where the heathen have learned so much about us that they know how to defeat us without putting forth a lot of effort within physical war. But they can do it in so many other ways. And one of those ways is to pit your brother against brother. So that's why the scriptures talk about in Matthew that a man's foes will be they of their own household, mother against daughter, father against son, etc. You know, why? Because a lot of times people are so willing to be all out for the stuff that they shouldn't be, that they will forsake family. And isn't being an Israelite about family? Isn't being an Israelite about being from the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the lineage, that chosen lineage of family that continues through, which gets us to the 12 tribes of Israel, which is the 12 patriarchs having their children, and so forth, which brings us to where we are today. So without family, and despite the disagreements, because the 12 tribes, and we're going to read about it today, these brothers, these patriarchs, they did not get along. They did not have everything going in their favor. And even though, let me rephrase that, not necessarily in their favor, but into their individual favors. One person got what they wanted, another didn't. Another got what they wanted, and it caused infighting. But it never caused infighting to such an extent that they were enemies. That they were full-blown out enemies. They were always able to reconcile. And that's the thing that I like to make sure that we pay attention to in today's lesson. And I want to take a minute. Hit the share button. If you're on Periscope, hit that share button. Let your Twitter go ahead and get everything going. If you are on Facebook, hit the share button. You know, go ahead and put it on your wall, your timeline, your story. Hit it in somebody's messenger, DM, right? Take the link and email it to a few people. Text it to a few people. Why? Because somebody needs to hear this. If you're about your people, you're going to have to examine what people who were about their people in the Bible did. And what we see, one of the first examinations that we've gone through so far, is that Mattathias was actually sad for any destruction that happened to any of his people. He didn't say, oh, well, I know him, so now I'm upset. He said, look at my people. I recognize that they are God's chosen people. I recognize that they're Israelites. I recognize that they're from my city. I recognize that the heathen is polluting my temple that all of us go to. So therefore, I'm upset. But now we only get upset if you're part of our close circle. And that's something that we got to change. So if you're on YouTube, I need you to hit that share button. I need you to hit the share button on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. And we'll start getting into other locations as well if we need to. But hit the share button, because guess what? If we get this gospel spread across the four corners of this earth, if we begin to repent and enough of us begin to forsake our lust and actually start keeping God's commandments, oh man, Christ is coming back with vengeance, right? And he's going to then set everything in order. And all of those who wish they were going to be saved actually can be saved now. From the hands of who? Their enemies. And see, the enemy, again, is the other nations of people. So if we're going to keep those things in mind, then we can hit that share button, right? So, let me see here. Let me see. I want to check some. I just want to look at my comments real quick. All right. So now we just finished 1 Maccabees chapter 2. We just went through 8 through 14. We just read through 15 through... let's read verse 19 now. Because in 18 we just saw that there was some people that was willing to sell out. And that when Mattathias was propositioned to sell out, what did he do? Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. See, your boy Mattathias spoke boldly. He was able to speak for himself. He was able to speak for his children. He was able to speak for the brethren around him. All of those other Israelites that was rolling with him, that was in his camp, if you will, that was a part of his church, if you will, whatever you call it. He was able to speak for them all. But the thing is, he was speaking with confidence because his confidence was in the Lord. His confidence was in the Lord, and his love was started and stemmed from the Lord for the people as a whole. So he said, yet I and my sons and my brethren, all of these people are my brethren. Who are your brethren? Your kinsmen according to the flesh, right? Not according to the membership status, but your kinsmen according to the flesh. See, you got a lot of precepts, and these precepts keep reminding who you are and whose you are and who you are connected with. So it said, yet I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. And see, this is important to break down. See, there's so many laws, and yet we keep some and don't keep the others. That's the flaw within our community in which we have so many disagreements. That we always try to find a way to do less laws instead of more laws. We always try to figure out how that's no longer valid anymore. But when it really is supposed to be valid. We're in 1 Maccabees chapter 2 right now, and we're at verse 19. And it says, then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, although the heathen want to obey the king, although some of them people want to do that, they want to leave the religion of their fathers. They don't want to hold true to what they've been doing for their heritage and their lineage, and give consent to the king's commandment. Yet I and my sons and my brothers, see, I'm taking ownership and possession of all of these people. They're mine. I'm theirs and they're mine. Instead of separating, you coming together. God forbid, verse 21, that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's word, to go from our religion. See, our religion had us being real brotherly to one another. And it was definitely frowned upon when you went against being brotherly. Look what happened to Cain and Abel. Look what happened to Jacob and Esau. It wasn't a positive thing that those things happened. But when you take on that spirit of Cain and that spirit of Esau, and now you try to be an Israelite with those spirits, you begin to be just as much of a devil as they are. As much as you look at them negative, you got to look at yourself negative now too. Either to the right hand or the left. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice. I'm going to stop right there. Because now I want to go to 2 Maccabees. I want to go to Genesis chapter 37. Because we got a little perspective from Maccabees. And we were understanding that Mattathias, as well as his sons, were in such a spirit that they felt bad for their nation as a whole. They were in such a spirit that they felt bad for the inhabitants of their city. They felt bad for the people who could no longer sacrifice properly. They felt bad for those who caved in and gave in to the king's commandment. So they did something about it. And with the zeal that they had, they began to go and do what we read about in the Feast of Dedication, which I want you to go back and check the topic. What the topic was, if I were a Maccabee. And that was last week with the Feast of Dedication closing. And then don't forget, Elder Uzziah did an awesome class as well. So for those of you who have not tuned in the True Spirit, Midweek Meditations is now a part in collaboration with the True Spirit of Christ. So now we can bring forth all of our collective talents and bring forth the Thursday classes and the Sunday classes and things like that to get a collective. And that's why I said shout out to Shema Ariyah as well as Daniel, who were able to come in together and work with me and help me fill in for me on the Midweek Meditations the last 2 weeks. All praises to the Father for that. So here we go. Now we're going to Genesis 37 because we need some other examples of people who are about their people. Yes, Mattathias felt something for his people. Yes, Mattathias died avenging his people. Yes, Mattathias raised his sons to be avengers of his people. Yes, they did. But he wasn't the only one. We got countless examples about people who are really about their people. Not the ones that say they are, but the ones that by their actions you can tell. Not the ones that their actions on one side say yes and their actions on one side say no, but where the story that's written about them, the thing that is documented is all about the people. See, if you got documentation about not being about the people, then that's contradictory. That's confusing. And that then leads our people to be in much more confusion than they needed to be. Genesis 37 and 23. All right. And it came to pass when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. So we got to pause for a sec. We got to give you the background, the history, right? Joseph, he has brothers, and they're jealous of him. They're jealous of him because this guy's a special guy. The parents see him as a favorite. They giving him the coat of many colors. He's having dreams that say, hey, y'all are going to be underneath me one day. That makes them jealous. And in doing so, we get to the point where Joseph's brothers decide that they're going to take his coat and they're going to throw him into a pit. Verse 25. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brother, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? See, the initial thought process, and I skipped it so you can read it for yourself, is that they were going to kill their brother. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Now the process is transitioning to, instead of kill him, let's sell him. And let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. And there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. So Joseph did have a brother that was concerned. Like, Joseph had a brother that wasn't as bad as the rest. Reuben was trying to stop this from happening, but he couldn't stop it. And he returned unto his brother and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? They took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of goats and dipped it in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, we have found, and now whether it be thy son's coat or no. So they do their brother like this, and then they lie about it. See, you're not really about your people if you're going to lie about the person that you're supposed to be about. If this is your brother, and you're going to lie about your brother, you're going to lie on your brother, and you're going to try to hide and conceal the truth from the people that care about your brother, you're not really about your people. You know, and that's what you find here in the example of Joseph's brothers. They're not really about their people right now. You know, they're about fulfilling their lust and feeling the way that they want to feel, and they don't care about someone else enough to keep their brother out of slavery, to keep their brother from, you know, they did stop from killing him at least. You know, all praises for that. There's levels to the hatred, I guess. But now we see them lying. And that's a telltale sign of someone who is not really about their people, is they're going to create lies and concoct stories to cover up the situation. So it says, and he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. And evil beasts have devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent into pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. How are you going to try to comfort your father after you just lied about your brother getting killed by a wild beast? How are you going to comfort your father after you just sold your brother to another people? How are you going to comfort your father after you wanted to kill your brother? Like, none of these things make sense to a person who is really about their people. These are the type of things that show a deep hatred. These are the type of things that show that you don't really love your people. You might love the glory of your that the people may give unto you when you're ruling over them. The glory when they think that you're really a great person, but you don't really love your people enough. You know, you only love them when it's good. But you gotta be able to love during the good and the bad. Because even the publicans can do good, to people, right? You want to be able to do good during good and bad. Be nice during good and bad. Be kind during good and bad times. Some of us don't have that skill set, though. So we stopped at 35. 36 says, and the Mennonites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard. So what type of spirit does Joseph then have on him? Because if you know the story of Joseph, he goes into captivity. He's working for Potiphar. He ends up in prison. He ends up out of prison. He ends up being the main guy that protects the world from a famine. And then here we are in Genesis 50 and 15. Please feel free to connect the dots in your own reading time throughout the chapters that we just missed. Again, share the class, share the video, share the meditation, because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to really show that they're about their people, and just the way that they've been going about it has been all wrong. But also we got to remember that the gospel must be preached. The gospel must be spread across the four corners of this earth. And this is one of the many methods of getting that thing across the world. So here we go. Genesis 50 and 15. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will peradventure hate us. So what happened is now Joseph has revealed himself to his brothers after they came to Egypt and did not recognize him. And now that they realize this is my brother Joseph, they're like, uh-oh, we about to get paid back for what we did to him. So now they thought that they were in a good seat. They thought that they were okay because as long as our father is here, Joseph is going to be cool with us. But now that the father has passed away, well, maybe he's not going to be cool with us. So it said, Joseph will peradventure hate us once the father is dead, and will certainly requite us as the evil which we did unto him. See, they know they did evil. And that's the thing, a lot of our people, we know we're doing evil, and we would hate for someone to do unto us what we did unto them. But what happened to love your neighbor as you love yourself? What happened to the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. See, people forget that when it's time for them to get judged, though, now they remember. And they sent a messenger to Joseph saying, thy father did command before he died, saying, so shall ye say unto Joseph, forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin. Everybody wants their sin forgiven, but nobody wants to be forgiving, right? For they did unto thee evil. Oh, I can't bear the judgment that you're going to bring upon me, even though I did evil to you. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. See, that's the thing. We're all servants of the God of our fathers. And that's what brings us together. That's what makes us a collective whole unit, the Israelites. But yet some people act like we got different gods. Some people act like we come from different lineage. When it all in true, we all the same lineage. We all got the same God, and we all got to keep the commandments in the faith of Christ to get the kingdom. But yet somebody thinks that they're going to get it and the other not. And you can force the other person to not get it. And you can will it to happen. But if you are really so righteous, you wish that all Israel could be saved. Is that not a precept as well? You wish that all Israel could be saved. Okay, but I guess we don't like those verses when they're not convenient, right? So shall you say unto Joseph, forgive me. And Joseph, verse 18, and his brethren also went down and fell before his face. And they said, Behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for I am in the place of God. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. See, that's the thing that's what makes me praise the Lord so hard is I know that when people mean evil toward me, that God still means it for good. I know that when I fall into diverse situations, that's just God testing me to see how strong I am to go through it. If you persecute me for righteousness' sake, okay, cool. You know, if I've been treated unfairly and dealt with unfairly, okay, that's part of the game. Because I understand the game. I thank you, God, for writing in your Bible on how you were going to treat us. How our people were going to treat us, you know, and understand that we suffer because of our sins. So, you know, I got to go through certain things just because I got to come out on the other side and prove that I'm worthy. And I'm okay with that. But look how Joseph's brothers are acting. Oh, forgive me. Please don't requite the evil that we did unto you. Forgive the trespass. Now you're lying again. Your dad probably ain't even say it like that. But you know, you wanted to make sure you threw it out there, right? So that Joseph would be forgiven. All praises for forgiveness, because that's a pillar that we all got to learn to do better. That's something that if we put that in our spirit, you know, we got a chance. Because guess what? We got parables that show us how if we can't forgive, then we won't be forgiven. But there's a lot of people that ain't got no forgiveness in their heart, and they really think they're going to get forgiven for the wickedness that they did. The wickedness and the evil that they're currently in the midst of, and you think you're getting forgiveness, but yeah, you can't forgive your brother. All you can do is hold grudge and bear hatred toward one another. Ooh, I feel sorry for you. Yes, Lord, I feel sorry for these people, and I pray for them that they get their spirit right. I pray that they get the spirit of brotherly love. I pray that they get the spirit of charity. I pray that they get the spirit of unity. I pray that they get those wicked spirits off of them. Get that pride off of you. Get that malice off of you. Get that hate and envy off of you. But, you know, everybody ain't going to get rid of those demons. Some people like those demons. Some people enjoy and invite those demons. But, here we go. So, we left off at verse 20. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people's lives. See, a lot of times, the evil that someone does to you is meant to translate to be beneficial to so many other people. See, one thing I've learned through the trial that I've been going through over these years is if I can endure through a certain situation, then I can be able to be there for someone else and help them endure through their situations. If I can build during the hardest times, then I can definitely build when it's easy. If I can provide for others, even though I feel like I need to be provided for, even though I'm lacking, then guess what? I'm in a great place. And all praise to the Most High for giving me the opportunity to fulfill those things, to be that person, to not be the way that we shouldn't be, to not be that wicked brother that has hatred and malice toward other people. Of our own nation, by the way. 21. Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. Joseph, the spirit that he had is even though his brothers did him dirty, they tried to sell him. No, they tried to kill him. And then they said, no, what? Let's sell him. And all of this time he's away from his father. And they lied to his father and said that he was killed. And now he's able to comfort his brothers. They didn't comfort him. He comforted them. See, that's a powerful spirit. That's a spirit that you need, sister. That's a spirit that you need, brother. That's a spirit that we need. Is the ability to be able to forgive. The ability to be able to comfort those who don't have that same spirit that we got. Be able to comfort those who are too weak in the flesh to be able to overcome and fight that negative energy that they have that's coming from the devil. All praise to the Most High God that God sent Joseph, just like he sent Mattathias and Judas and all of these people in front of us to be a great example. Because a lot of our worldly examples or our modern day examples today, terrible examples. So what are we going to do? Are we going to really learn from these people, or are we going to continue doing the wrong thing? Let's go to Numbers 11 and 11. Now we're going to talk about Moses. So we talked about Mattathias, we talked about Joseph, now we talk about Moses. And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them? That thou shouldst say unto me, carry them in my bosom, as a nursing father beareth the suckling child unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? Whence should I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. I must stop right there. Moses got in his bag. He said, man, the job you giving me is too strong. It's too heavy for me. I don't know if I can do it. Why you put me in this position? I can't handle it. Verse 15, and if thou deal thus with me, kill me. I can't handle it, Lord. Just put me to death, Lord. I can't keep pushing like this. I pray thee out of the hand, and if I have found favor in thy sight, let me see not my wretchedness. He knows that he at a point where he about to blow. Don't show me your wretchedness. Don't let me show you my wretchedness. I know I can be evil. I can be wicked. But he was fighting it the whole time. And all praises to the Father for that. Because verse 16 then says that he's going to divide the burden amongst others. So verse 16 said, and the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee, and I will take of the spirit which is upon thee, and I will put it upon them. Notice that. See, when you're a real righteous leader and you need help, God will take some of your righteous spirit and put it upon others. But you don't hear me though. And they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. And say thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves again tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh. For ye have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you flesh, and ye shall eat. See, that goes right back into us loving our oppression. That goes right back to us being so focused on the wrong things in life. That's sad. All right. Let's go to... That's how Moses felt, but let's go to how he got there. Like, we got to look back at how he even got in a position to get so stressed by all these people. All these people he's the leader of. Hebrews 11 and 25. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Oh, who was that? Verse 24. Verse 23. Matter of fact, let's go up to... Man, we're going to read at the top. We're going to read up. Let's read 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. See, I love that part. You can't be afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer the affliction with God's people than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Is that what he did? Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he took Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. So what do we see here? What is it? We see Moses made a choice. He chose to drop down from his seat of luxury and to live amongst his people. And to really put the focus on dealing with his people in that manner. See, a lot of us, it's conveniency factor, right? We only do the things for our people that are convenient for us. If it's too much of a burden for us, we're not doing it for somebody else. But Moses said, man, I'm not worried about these riches. I'm not worried about all the things that I had in the Pharaoh's house. I'm not worried about being the prince of Egypt, if you will. What I'm worried about is the upliftment of our people. So, we look at these things. These are great examples. These are great examples. Romans 12 and 10. Bible says, be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love. And honor preferring one another, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessity of the saints, giving to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. See, bless and curse not. The way our community works is we curse and bless not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much life in you, live peaceably with all men. See, a lot of people not even putting any effort into being peaceful. So, as much as life in you, if it were possible, those are words of true strain, true struggle. But many of us don't go through that. Let's get 1 Samuel 18. Because we talked about Moses, Joseph, Mattathias. Now we're going to talk a little bit about David. Therefore Saul removed, verse 12. And Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him and he was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over the thousands. And he went out there and came in before the people. So what we got to see here is Saul's afraid of David. And David, he's getting done a certain way because of the relationship that they have. So David, now he's going to be put over the captainship of an army. Got to keep those things in mind. Because the next verse says, David behaved himself wisely in all ways. And most of us don't do that. Most of us don't know what wise is. And the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul was that he behaved himself very wisely, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David. Because he went out and came in before them. So, the point of us being here, we got to skip around a little bit. We got to get to verse 17. And Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter Merab, she will I give thee the wife, only be valiant for me, and to fight the Lord's battles. So Saul said, let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. Why did he say that? Well, if you look what happened in the history, we did have the other nations giving us a run for our money sometimes when we was in sin. Let's go to verse 20. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David and told Saul that one thing pleased her. So, we're looking at these things. We're seeing what's going on. You've already read this story before. You're not new to it, right? Let me pull something up here. Okay. Chapter 19 begins to show us a little bit more of the story, because right here you see Saul fears David for his success. When we get to 19, it's building. Saul plans to kill David. It says, and Saul spake unto Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. Make it plain. Verse 10. And Saul sought to smite David, even to the wall with the javelin. But he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. 11. So Saul sent messengers unto David's house to watch him and slay him. Verse 18. So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel to Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done. And he and Samuel went and dwelt at Noathah. So David is on the hit list. Saul is trying to get this man killed. That's not being about your people. That's not love for your people. You may be a little jealous, but you're trying to get your boy killed? You trying to prevent his livelihood? What about his family? 1 Samuel 24 and 1. And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistine, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. So he's still seeking after David. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet. And David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord saith unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thy hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto me. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily. And it came to pass afterwards that David's heart smote him because he had cut off the skirt. See, you got Saul trying to literally kill David, and you got David who was just saying, hey man, just look how close I got to you. And that got him upset. Because David loved his people despite the fact that they were enemies, they were still Israelites. So he said unto his men, Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master. He's still referencing this man that's trying to kill him. The Lord's anointed. He still viewed him as anointed. To stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But since Saul rose up out the cave and went on his way, David also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Saul, saying, My Lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face toward the earth and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how the Lord have delivered thee today in mine hand in the cave, and some bade me to kill thee. But mine eyes spared thee, and so I will not put forth mine hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Wherefore, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in thy hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and kill thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. See, I like this part. Because now he has this piece of evidence that shows that I could have done you a certain way, but you've been coming at me all this time and I ain't even trying to do nothing. See, if you love your people, that's where turn the other cheek come in. That's where give them your coat come in. That's where, all of these things come in, Christ talked about, but no one makes the connections anymore. Everybody just read precepts now, but nobody actually understands the Bible like they used to. 2 Samuel 1. and 1. Now when it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had abode 2 days in Ziklag, it came to pass on the third day that the man came out of the camp from Saul and rent his clothes and earth upon his head. So it was when he came to David that he fell too short. When he fell to earth and did obeisance. Let's say it like that. And David said unto him, From whence comest thou? And he said, Out of the camp of Israel. And David said unto him, How went the matter? I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, That the people are fled from battle, and many other people also are fallen dead, and Saul and Jonathan and his sons are dead also. This is a moment that David, if he were one of you, would jump and shout and scream and be so happy about it. But let's see what the real David has to say. And David has said unto the young man that told him, How knowest that Saul and Jonathan's son be dead? And the young man told himself, As I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen followed after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me and called unto me. And I answered and said, Here I am. Here am I. And he said unto me, Who art thou? And I answered, I am Amalekite. He said unto me again, Stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, because my life is yet a whole in me. So, we're getting to the point, if you read all of this, David is crying because Saul died. He's mourning his enemy's death. And if we could mourn our enemy's death, then we'd be in a better spot. But some of you will probably laugh at your brother dying. Will have no remorse, no sympathy at your brother dying. And he was a brother regardless of if he believed everything you brought. He was a brother. And if we could have that mindset, we'd be golden. We'd be good. We'd be making progress. Oh, but no. No progress for you. So that's today's midweek meditation. Are you about your people? If you're about your people, when someone trying to kill you, that's still not enough to put them in the spirit to hate you. David still addressed Saul as the anointed, as one of God's anointed. David said, man, it even made me sad to cut your skirt, let alone kill you. You trying to kill me, but I wouldn't dare kill you. We got to have that spirit. We got to have that spirit of Moses to where he will leave the treasures of his current life and go and have to run away because of the things that he did. You got Moses. You got Joseph, who even though his brothers sold him into slavery, he still was about his people. You got Mattathias, who was about his people. So the question is, are you about your people? A lot of people are going to say that they are, but are they? That's the question. So we ask these questions, and then we must answer them. And when we get the answer, we must apply them. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I want you to meditate on these things. And really start looking at the people around you and seeing who's really about your people. The people who are about your people are always going to uplift you, even in the hard times. The people who are about their people are always looking to improve the quality of life for not only themselves, but the nation as a whole. Not too separatist on it, but just in a general idea and sense. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty to learn, but it doesn't mean you have to hate your people. So with that, I say shalom. Again, it's Midweek Meditations. We take donations on midweekmeditation.com/donations to help further this gospel. We've been able to, increase the tech equipment. Actually got a new camera coming soon as this one continues to need to be restarted through the broadcast. It helps us with providing for the people. We've been able to do some things that help others in our endeavors with True Spirit of Christ, able to, bring food to people, bring personal protection items to people, bring toiletries and coats and socks and all type of things that we're able to donate to the people, because we can come together as a collective and work and help make an impact in the community. See, it's one thing to make an impact within your organization, but it's another thing to make an impact within your community. So all praises to the Father for that. We'll go ahead and hit you with the outro so you can see that link if you need to hear one more time, and we'll be done for today. So I pray you had a good one, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Shalom.
And get complete understanding. On keeping God's command.